Today, we're tackling something you hear all the time, especially if you follow legal news, judge, and justice.
Hmm.
People often use them, well, kind of interchangeably, right? In movies, news reports.
Exactly. But are they actually the same thing, or is there a real difference? That's what we're digging into.
Yeah, and our source material really lays out this distinction quite clearly. It seems subtle, but it's actually pretty significant in the legal world.
It really is. So our mission today, for you listening, is to clear up any confusion. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what sets a judge apart from a justice.
Absolutely. No more wondering. You'll have that clarity. We're pulling insights directly from a document that breaks it all down.
Yeah.
So where should we start? Maybe with the judge.
Good idea. Let's start there at the foundational level. So when we say judge, what are we talking about? We're talking about the person who actually sits in a court and hears cases.
Okay, so they're the ones presiding,
Yeah.
listening. What does that actually involve day to day?
Well, their job is very specific. They listen carefully to both sides, the complainant, the accused. They look at all the evidence, documents, objects,
Right.
and they hear from witnesses. Their main responsibility, making decisions based strictly on the law.
So administering justice right there on the ground level.
Precisely. Sentencing someone if they're found guilty or letting them go if they're found innocent. And the source points out specifically that judges usually preside in district courts or sessions courts.
Ah, okay. So more local courts.
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
Like if there's a dispute in your town or city that goes to court, the person hearing that case, that's the judge. It allows for focus on, a higher volume of those kinds of cases.
Got it. Okay. So that's the judge handling cases at that kind of district or sessions level. But then you hear justice. That sounds, well, bigger.
It definitely signals a higher level. When you hear the term justice, you should immediately think higher court.
Like the high court
Uh,
or the Supreme Court.
Exactly. The source is clear. Judges serving in the High Court and the Supreme Court are specifically referred to as justice.
And I assume they handle different kinds of cases.
Oh, absolutely. Justices are usually very experienced. They're dealing with much larger, more complex cases, things with potentially wider impact.
Okay, like what sort of things? Our source mentioned some examples.
Yes. Think about major constitutional questions or petitions that are important nationwide. Big stuff.
Wow.
And also high-profile criminal cases sometimes, like murder, major corruption cases, or even significant political disputes that need resolution at that higher level.
So it's a different scale entirely.
Completely. The source gives that example. If you hear on the news, Justice Chandrachud made a big decision, you know that's coming from a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
It's a ruling that could affect, well, potentially everyone in the country.
Right. Okay, so let's try and compare them directly. The core difference seems to be function and court level. Yeah.
That's the main thing. I mean, look, both hear cases, both make decisions based on law. That's fundamental. But the justice is operating at a higher and more significant level within that whole judicial structure.
So judge, district or sessions court, justice, high court or Supreme Court, clear distinction there.
Very clear. And this isn't just about the name tag, It reflects a difference in professional standing, even how they're addressed.
How so?
Well, the source notes that a judge might sometimes be called Judge Sahab. That's sort of an honorific, a respectful term in some places.
Okay.
But a justice, you typically address them more formally, Justice Sharma or Justice Rao, using their title and last name. It signals that higher designation.
Interesting. And the case complexity follows that pattern too.
Definitely. Judges handle, let's say, more general cases,
Yeah.
applying established law to specific, often local situations. Justices, on the other hand, they're often tackling those really big, sometimes constitutional issues. They might be interpreting the law itself, not just applying it.
Which requires a different kind of legal depth, I suppose.
A very deep and broad understanding, yes.
Our source material had a really great analogy to make this stick. It used cricket.
Ah, yes, that's a good one. Very relatable for a lot of people. So the analogy goes like this. Think of a judge as being like a district-level cricket player.
Okay, so skilled, plays the game, important at that level.
Right. Makes decisions on the local field, contributes to the game's foundation, but then a justice.
They're like the Team India player, right?
Right.
Playing in the major leagues, the big international matches.
Exactly. Both are playing cricket, both are involved in the rules and decisions, but the justice is operating on that national or even international stage. Higher stakes, bigger responsibility, more experience needed.
That actually clarifies it really well. Same fundamental role administering justice, but vastly different levels of operation and scale.
Mm-hmm. It paints a good picture.
Now, something people might wonder is, can you move up?
Hmm.
Can a judge actually become a justice?
Good question. And the answer, according to our source, is a definite yes. Absolutely.
Okay, so there's a pathway there. What does it take? What does the source say about, the requirements for that promotion?
It highlights key qualities. The judge needs to be seen as honest, wise, and crucially highly knowledgeable in the law.
Makes sense. Merit and expertise.
Right. If a judge demonstrates those qualities consistently, they can indeed be promoted. They could become a justice of the High Court or maybe even eventually reach the Supreme Court. It's a recognized career progression.
That's good to know. So let's boil this down. What are the absolute must-remember takeaways for you listening?
Okay, the absolute key takeaway, sort of the golden rule here, is this. Every justice is technically a judge,
Right, they perform the judicial function.
but not every judge is a justice.
Perfect. That really sums up the hierarchy.
And it reinforces the court levels, judges in the smaller local courts, justices in the bigger higher courts, high courts in the Supreme Court.
And the last point is about the word itself. Judge is the more general term, kind of the default.
Yes, it's the common term for someone presiding in court. Whereas justice is more specific. It's a special title, a designation that comes with that higher rank and responsibility.
So there you have it. Hopefully that clears things up. You now have a much clearer picture of the difference between a judge and a justice.
Yeah, both are crucial for delivering justice, absolutely. But they operate at different levels, different jurisdictions, different responsibilities. It's a structured system.
Indeed. And thinking about that structure, here's something maybe to chew on after this deep dive. Now that you understand this kind of hierarchy, this layered system,
Mm.
what might be the wider effects of having these specialized levels? For how a country's laws actually develop over time. And maybe more importantly, how does this structure impact regular people's access to justice?
Ah, that's a really interesting question to ponder. Lots to think about there.